another brand new hour here, live from Washington, D.C. Of course, special edition today. The reason being is I'm going to get a hard pass for the White House today. We'll tell you about that coming up in a little bit. But first, three big things you need to know here. Number one, the peace talks between Russia and Ukraine are stalled again. I mean, what'd you expect? They're bombing each other, attacking each other, blowing each other up, right? I mean, what exactly did you expect? There is that. Number two, as we've talked about, a pair of Chinese nationals arrested, charged with bringing fungus into America that could destroy wheat, corn, rice, barley, the food crop, create an end of farming in America. And number three, we talked about Elon Musk completely ripping the entire big, beautiful bill. And if you didn't hear it, here's what he said about it. And this is important because obviously he doesn't like what he's seeing in the bill. He said, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination." Look, I can't argue with him. I can't. If we don't get this spending under control, we're screwed. And now there are Republicans in the Senate getting cold feet, too. Ron Johnson says, how about line-by-line cuts in the spending? Okay, how about that? But Republicans in the Senate getting cold feet, too. I want you to hear this.
And as far as releasing
those senators, it's not news that they disagree with this president on policy, and the president has vocally called them out for it and for their not having their facts together. I would add the Congressional Budget Office has been historically wrong. In fact, they predicted the Trump tax cuts from the president's first term in 2017. Their prediction was wrong by $500 billion. Those tax cuts had nearly $500 billion more of revenue than the Congressional Budget Office scored. And I would also point out, I don't think many people know this, there hasn't been a single staffer in the entire Congressional Budget Office that has contributed to a Republican since the year 2000. But guess what? There have been many staffers within the Congressional Budget Office who have contributed to Democrat candidates and politicians every single cycle since. So unfortunately, this is an institution in our country that has become partisan and political, and we are very confident in our own economic analyses of this bill. There is $1.6 trillion in savings, and our Office of Management and Budget Director, Russ Vought, is a fiscal hawk. He is well known in this city for being a well-respected fiscal hawk. He has tools at his disposal to produce even more savings. And as you know, the White House will be sending our rescissions package to Capitol Hill today.
Yeah, and so we'll see what that rescissions package brings. But look, if we don't get spending under control in America, if they don't give you a plan to cut spending in this country, if politicians, whether it's Democrat or Republican, doesn't matter, the debt crisis, the coming debt crisis is the most predictable financial disaster in world history. If we face a debt crisis like Greece did, which was bailed out by the EU is not bailing out the United States. Let me clue you in. That's not happening, right? But on the other side of the coin, Democrats aren't popular either. Whatever they're selling, Americans aren't buying. I mean, look at the number. Well, you don't have to take my word for it. Let's look at CNN's numbers, shall we? When it comes to the economy, Americans aren't buying what Democrats are selling. Here, listen to this.
After all of the waves, Kate Baldwin, after the last few months, the first 5 months of the Donald Trump presidency, right, the first 4 months of the Donald Trump presidency, that you expect that Democrats would have this massive lead on the economy. It ain't so. It ain't so. The party that is closest to your economic views, in November of 2023, it was the Republicans by 11 points. Now it's still within that range, still within that margin of error. Plus 8-point advantage for the Republican Party. How is that possible, Democrats? How is that possible after all the recession fears, after the stock market's been doing all of this, after all the tariffs that Americans are against, and Republicans still hold an 8-point lead on the economy? Are you kidding me? If it was just this one CNN poll, that would be one thing. But take a look at Reuters Ipsos. What do we see here? Party with a better economic plan. Well, in May of 2024, just before Donald Trump was reelected president, Republicans had a 9-point advantage. Look at where we are now in May of 2025. The advantage actually went up by 3 points. Now Republicans have a 12-point advantage.
A 12-point advantage. It would seem that with all the work being done by MSNBC, Chicken Noodle News, the Washington Post, New York Times, the nightly news networks, you would think with all the work they're doing, carrying water for the Democrats, promoting such wonderful ideas as open borders and men participating in women's sports, that they'd have an advantage. But somehow, whatever the Democrats are selling, America's not buying. Go figure. Oh, and that's not all. Here's more from CNN.
All of that, the Democrats are down by 12 points on the economy. This speaks to Democratic problems on the economy better than basically anything that you could possibly look at. The Republicans still hold an advantage on the all-important key issue of the day, which is the party of the middle class, has been a huge advantage for Democrats. I have polling from NBC going all the way back since 1989, when Democrats had a 23-point advantage. 2016, a 17-point advantage. But by this decade, we already started seeing declines back in 2022, where you saw that Democrats led, but only by 4 points, well within the margin of error. And now in our latest CNN poll among registered voters, which is the party of the middle class, it is tied. This, I think, speaks to Democratic ills more than anything else. They have traditionally been the party of the middle class. No more. Donald Trump and the Republican Party have taken that mantle away, and now a key advantage for Democrats historically has gone adios amigos, and now there is no party that is the party of the middle class. Republicans have completely closed the gap, Kate.
It's gone adios amigos. Gee, what do you think old Henry's referring to there? Or Harry, excuse me. Harry Anton. Harry, Henry, whatever. You work at Chicken Noodle News, whatever. But he's kind of a fired up, colorful young fella, isn't he? Look, the Democrats are selling snake oil and everybody knows it. If Republicans can get spending under control, but here's the problem with that. When Elon Musk calls this a disgusting abomination, Bernie Sanders comes right out, you're right, because it does this and that, and Bernie jumps on board. Look, Bernie Sanders has been a kook my entire life. That hasn't changed. Bernie Sanders is a kook. He was a kook then. He's a kook now. Democrats think he's a kook. He's not even a Democrat, but somehow they've drifted to Bernie's side of the column. I don't understand it. Nobody understands it. But there it is. Donald Trump continues to move the needle in favor of the middle class, in favor of his agenda, in favor of everything that he's doing. It's going the right way for Donald Trump and the Republicans. If they can keep spending under control, if the economy is in good shape a year from today, they are in very good shape for the midterms. We'll see how the Senate plays with the big, beautiful bill. Every day we'll keep you up to date right here on the Steve Gruber Show. Don't forget to follow me on X, Instagram, Truth Social. We're live on YouTube and so many other places. Just get in touch with it. Be part of the movement. I'll be right back. All right, welcome back to it. You know, as I saw this big solar project in California basically go bankrupt, I was watching this yesterday. We'll have some information on that coming up. And you look at these hailstorms and tornadoes that destroy acres and acres of solar panels. You see the fact that these giant wind turbines turn sometimes not. We have a power problem in America. Much of it's self-inflicted because we have this delusional, not all of us, but some of us have this delusional idea that windmills and, rainbows and fairy tales are going to power our homes. It's not. And in fact, the demand on energy in America is only going to increase dramatically in the years to come. Much of that from AI demand on electricity. Bitcoin demands tremendous amounts of electricity. My next guest, Scott Angel, is the longest-serving director of the U.S. Bureau of Safety and Environmental Enforcement, founder of USA Energy Workers, and has served as Louisiana's lieutenant governor as well. He joins me now, and he says there's going to be a 35 to 50% spike in U.S. power demand in just the next 15 years. Scott, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Steve, and thank you for all the great work you've done now for several decades, both in front of the camera and behind the mic, delivering truth to American people on important issues. Just great to be a part, honored to be a part of your show this morning, sir.
Well, I appreciate that. Look, and we do try to tell the truth, and the truth is, windmills and solar panels, that might be great on your local family farm. It might be great on your house there in the subdivision. You look cool. Your friends think you're a good guy. Whatever. It's not going to power New York City or Cleveland or Salt Lake or any place else. You cannot scale solar power or turbines to power America. It's not going to work. We need natural gas. We need oil. We need coal. That's why the Chinese are building new coal-fired power plants, 1 or 2 a week, right?
Well, and it's exactly what you said in your opening comments. You talked about a self-inflicted situation here, and it absolutely has been a manufactured crisis. There's a manufactured, man-made crisis on the middle class of America by trying to make an energy transition, if you would, before those particular sources are ready. We would say that we need an energy addition, not a transition. Look, there's room at the table for all sources if you can compete. But what we've done in this country is we've kind of embraced, for a period of time, maybe about for 3 or 4 years, we embraced this European model. Let's just go to everything renewables. And we saw what happened, right? We saw what happened with regards to energy prices. We saw how it drove inflation. About 40% of overall inflation, the experts tell us, Steve, is driven by energy inflation. And we kind of went through that, right? And so thank God that we're now at a point where we have an administration that understands that as so goes our access to affordable energy, not cheap energy, but affordable energy, so goes our economy. And,
right.
and it's incredible. We've made a pivot. We've gone from energy defense to now energy offense in this country. We've gone from all of government war. We went from an all of government war on energy policy. I mean, this is where we were in this country. 6 months ago, we were in a situation where we had an all of government war on domestic energy policy. And now we've gone to 2025, all of government support for American energy. So, look, better days are ahead, no doubt. We got to, battle ourselves out of some stupid policy decisions, but certainly this administration is making that. As you know, the administration declared a national energy emergency to help
Which they should.
Some of the permitting.
Scott, let me ask you this.
Absolutely.
I got to ask you this. We're behind. There's no question. But how can we catch up? We're behind. Look, as I pointed out, the Chinese, one example, the Indians are doing the same thing. New coal-fired power plants. The Chinese are building them 1 and 2 a week. They're not even putting them into production, Scott. That's what people should be aware of. They're putting them there and setting them aside for future reference. While we're bulldozing and destroying perfectly good coal-fired power plants, they're building new ones and just setting them there for future reference because they know the demand for power is coming. Can we catch up, and how do we do it? Do we need modular nuclear? Do we need more coal-fired power plants? Do we need LNG? How do we get there?
All of the above. And what we have to, I think it starts with understanding that the head coach of the country now gets the fact, right? The head coach, we have a change with head coach here in the country with a new occupant in the White House. And this guy gets the fact that we've had 6 recessions in this country from 1973 to 2019, and each one of them have been preceded by a spike in energy prices. You know, energy in a modern economy is not a luxury; it's a necessity. And so it starts with, I think, realizing that when we talk about how to catch up, it talks about a pivot. What is a pivot? The definition of a pivot is to change direction. Usually, when you've observed that there is a failed direction that's happened. And so that's the number one thing I would say with you, and we're starting to see that. We're seeing it 2 things. Number one, the national energy emergency. That declaration allows for permitting to be streamlined, to be able to get the grid restored and get projects moved. The other thing, Steve, that is absolutely incredible that I think is kind of flying below the radar, I want to share with you listeners, is the formation of the National Energy Dominance Council. Never before in the history of the country has there been an executive order that's put together so many powerful people from so many different groups that's come together to say, you know what, we are going to solve this problem. Again, that's by an executive order of the head coach saying, let's go make it happen. And so we're seeing it already. We're seeing with some of the permitting reforms that are happening. We're seeing it with the fact that in 2025, we're going to have an offshore lease sale where the previous president canceled offshore lease sales. So we're going back to recognizing that the Gulf of America is this incredible province that produces 1 out of every 6 barrels of oil in this country and has the second lowest carbon emissions on the planet. So again, when we say how do we catch up, it catches up, I think, with understanding and trying to permeate through the American people. And that's part of what I'm doing here this morning with you, so we can talk about the truth that we've got to have affordable energy, and it starts with the White House.
Well, Scott, you come back anytime. Scott Angel, he's leading the fight on environment, energy, the economy, making things work for the American people. You come back anytime, Scott. I greatly appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Steve. You can visit us at usaenergyworkers.com. We exist for one reason and one reason only, to elevate and celebrate the American energy worker. We believe that our teachers deserve a lot of credit. If you can read, we think you ought to thank a teacher. If you can read at night in your warm or cool home, thank a teacher and a USA Energy worker. How about that?
How about that? Thank you. All right, just exploring all of this today. But have you followed the Karen Reed trial at all? I asked, this woman is on trial for murdering her boyfriend, a police officer in Massachusetts. I haven't watched it much, but I've watched it some. All right, I've watched it some, right? And I say that because I find it interesting that they keep... I think she's going to get acquitted. They've tried real hard to get her convicted, but I think she's going to get acquitted on this deal because there's too much that the prosecution has missed on here. They believe that she hit. The prosecution's theory of the case is that she hit her boyfriend. They were in a fight. They had some really nasty fights back and forth. Text wording. He died in a blizzard, and he was drunk. He was in a snowdrift. They say that she hit him with the back of her Lexus as she was leaving the scene after having a fight with him. To me, from all the facts, it just doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. And so I'm, and the defense is asking for a mistrial again. In fact, there was an expert witness who said the arm injuries to John O'Keefe was from a dog bite, not from her car, but from a dog bite. Others have testified that the injuries to his face were not from a car, but from a cocktail glass. I don't know. It's interesting. Karen Reed, the trial, I've been following it some. Did you know that scammers can literally steal your home right out from under you? The FBI calls it house stealing. It's a growing real estate scam targeting American homeowners. Here's how it works. Criminals will forge your signature on a document, use that fake document then to go after the equity in your home. You don't even know what's happening. They can steal the equity in your home by taking out loans or sell your house altogether. Their $1 million triple lock protection helps keep your home and equity safe, and here's what you get. Immediate 24/7 monitoring of all your property, urgent alerts if there are any changes, and if fraud should happen, they'll cover you up to $1 million of restoring your good name. Go to HomeTitleLock.com. You'll get a free title examination. It's worth $250. HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Gruber. You'll save $250 and have peace of mind that your house is protected from these online thieves. I'll be right back. We've been talking about China here today already, and the connection to the University of Michigan, which seems to be suspect, to say the least. All these Chinese students being caught in these different scams, whether they're up at Camp Grayling taking photographs pretending to be journalists. This happened last year, or these two students busted bringing in this fungus that would destroy wheat, corn, rice, and more if it was let loose and it was virulent. You've got that going on. Meanwhile, you've got the Chinese trying to influence ever more their neighborhood in the world. South Korea held elections here in the last couple of days, if you didn't know. The very liberal candidate won that election. This is a candidate that has been previously very open to Chinese influence, and it's quite concerning, to say the least, to me and to other observers. Bruce Klingler is a senior research fellow for Northeast Asia at the Heritage Foundation. My good friends over there. Bruce, thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Look, China obviously casts a large shadow over all nations in its region. South Korea, though, has been a staunch ally of the United States. We defended them during the Korean War, of course, to protect that country. It's become a very prosperous nation. But now, I have to wonder, what is the future after this election and what's happening? Please give us an overlay. Tell us what you think.
Well, the left of center candidate, Lee Jae-myung, did win decisively. And during the campaign, like many politicians, he campaigned from the center. He had sort of moderated or abandoned a lot of his comments or policy prescriptions that he had made in the past, and adopted a much more moderate position. He even described himself as a centrist conservative. So he clearly won the election. And now the concern, including of mine, is whether he'll go back to his previous policies, which were more conciliatory towards North Korea and China, more nationalist and more antagonistic towards Japan, and then a bit more aloof toward the United States, seeking a more independent role in the alliance with Washington, which we've seen in previous progressive presidents in South Korea. So on some of the areas, he may overlap with Trump. On others, particularly the U.S. policies on China and seeking allies in the Indo-Pacific to do more, we may see a bit of a strain or a clash or a tension between the two countries.
Bruce, I've seen people online go as far as to suggest that this could be a step toward aligning with China altogether. I mean, people are very concerned in some, and I don't know if I give that credence, because as you mentioned, there have been very liberal leaders of South Korea in years past. But there's something about this progression of events that has a lot of people very concerned, more concerned than I've seen probably in a number of years. Is that fair to characterize it that way?
Well, I think we have concerns about his policies, but there have been some conspiracy theories about the election, as well as the previous election last year of the National Assembly, which gave the progressives a strong majority. But there's really no substantial evidence that the election was stolen or heavily influenced by China or others. And also, I think there are going to be more constraints on his policies than previous progressive presidents. Even though he'll have almost a supermajority in the unicameral National Assembly, in comparison with previous years, the South Korean public is very supportive of the alliance with the United States. They're much more wary of China than they were before. There have been incidents in recent years which really soured the South Korean public view on China. They're much more concerned about the China threat, not only militarily but economically, and also they're much more skeptical about engaging with North Korea in a sort of an unconditional manner, as has been done sometimes in the past. They see that diplomacy has been tried; it hasn't succeeded so far. They're increasingly concerned about the growing North Korean threat, the missile, nuclear, cyber, and even conventional weapons now. And they've seen that North Korea has this treaty with Russia and has been providing massive amounts of artillery shells and weapons, and getting in return food, fuel, and funding, and maybe military technology. So I think the South Korean public will serve as a constraint on how far, how fast Lee Jae-myung reaches out to North Korea and China. And also, it doesn't look like North Korea is very interested right now in talking with the U.S. or South Korea. They haven't talked with either of us for about 5 years now. So that may change perhaps by next year. But uh, the current president now in South Korea won't be serving as a mediator between North Korea and the U.S. as the previous progressive president during President Trump's first term.
You know, Bruce, as I look around the world, I'm kind of mixed results here. And what I mean by that is if you look at Italy or Argentina or Poland more recently, governments there, people are moving to the right, embracing conservative principles and ideas. But if I look at Canada or now South Korea, people are going to the left. It seems to be it's not just a divide in America, it seems, Bruce. It seems that globally there's a separation of whether it's progressive politics or conservative politics. What do you make of that?
Well, we would have continued to have a conservative president in South Korea for about 2 more years. President Yoon was serving a single 5 year term, but then in early December, he declared martial law in an unconstitutional manner. He ended it after about 3 hours after the National Assembly had to jump over fences and evade the military to carry out their constitutional duties, and they voted against the martial law. And then President Yoon rescinded it. So that really angered the South Korean public. It was a reversal of decades of democratization that had occurred since 1987. Before that, South Korea had sort of military dictators or authoritarian dictators. So for the South Korean public, for the President Yoon to do that, really angered them. And then since then, we've had 6 months of court rulings and impeachments, which were upheld by the Constitutional Court of South Korea. So much of the vote was a rebellion against the Conservative Party and its support even after the impeachment for President Yoon's unconstitutional actions. Lee Jae-myung is not well liked. He is a very divisive character. He lost in the election that did bring about President Yoon by less than 1%, and before that he had lost in the primary of the Liberal Party. So he's not well liked, but there was more of a sense of punishing the conservatives for their unconstitutional martial law declaration in December.
And we'll see how that plays out. I guess the jury is still out, as they say, Bruce. We're going to have to sit and watch this one for a bit and see how it plays out. And then, of course, have you back to discuss as we get into this probably 3 to 6 to 9 months and see what direction the new administration is going to go in South Korea. We certainly hope that they remain aligned with the United States and don't begin to appease Beijing. Bruce, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it. There you have it. Bruce Klingner from the Heritage Foundation, of course, our go-to to sort out complex issues. Oftentimes, you know why? They have the best people out there to do exactly that. I'll take a break and be right back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. All right, so everybody knows AI, right? So if I didn't tell you this story, I'm gonna tell you this story real quick because it's frightening to me in a little way. Uh, Last week, Ivy sends me a radio commercial, right? For a client that we have, and she sends it to me, and I listen to it. I'm like, I didn't write that commercial, and I didn't voice that commercial, but it was me, 100%. She had taken a sample of my voice, created this AI radio commercial that I didn't write and didn't voice, and it was 100% me. How frightening is that, anyhow? Joining me now is Chris McKenzie, former Senior Communications Director at Chamber of Progress, was the Communications Director to Congresswoman Kendra Horn and Terry Sewell. And he says for college graduates, AI could be detrimental for a job search. Well, the way I look at it, Chris, I could be put out of a job. They don't even need me anymore. They've got a voice sample, they throw in a script, and boom, I exist virtually, and I don't even matter anymore. I'm sorry, but that's a little unsettling to me. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to be back with you, Steve.
All right, so AI, a lot of good things are possible, but then there's also other concerns. You have concerns for how it's going to negatively impact college graduates. Please explain.
Sure, it's not just college graduates, but those are the folks who are seeing the economic situation deteriorate for first. What we've seen in recent months is a spike in unemployment among recent college grads, up to 5.8%, which is actually unusually high, especially compared with the rest of the workforce, which is seeing much lower unemployment rates. There's not a lot of certainty right now that that is related to AI, but there are some early warning signs that AI's impact could be related to that rise in unemployment.
All right, so here's the deal, though. Throughout American history and world history, advancements in technology have always resulted in people losing their jobs. Always. The cotton gin, there's an easy example. People lose jobs. The horseless carriage, the automobile, people lose jobs. One industry goes to the next industry, right? Why wouldn't that apply here? Why wouldn't AI create new possibilities and new opportunities?
Sure, we don't have lamplighters anymore, right? And we can all agree that
Correct.
that's fine. Yeah. There's a difference with AI and some of our past technological revolutions, and one is in the pace of change, right? The Industrial Revolution took a full century to take hold and make transformations in our workforce, but we're looking at some pretty massive workforce changes over the next 5 years. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that's something we need to stop, but it is something we need to plan for to make sure that our workforce is able to transition into new jobs and that those new jobs are there to provide work for people.
I think that's fair. Look, the world has changed. You know, a guy told me this 5 years ago, and I kind of, well, you know, maybe. But about 5 years ago, a friend of mine that appears in this program said the world's going to change more in the next 10 years than it has in 10,000. And now that I'm hearing and seeing myself, that is absolutely spot on me, and it's not me. I mean, I think he's right. And it comes to self-driving cars. It comes to, look, I'll take it to the military aspect where Ukraine can attack with drones and destroy entire, you know, fleets of military aircraft in the blink of an eye. The monitoring of us. I mean, whether it's on this machine that I'm on here or my phone down here. I mean, the world is different today, Chris, than it was just 5 years ago, isn't it?
Yeah, I think as you're saying, you know, we see the change in the economic data, right, which shows a
Sure.
deteriorating job situation for college grads. But we also have anecdotal evidence that AI is already impacting our workforce. And I'll give you just a couple examples. You know, Meta recently announced that it's going to work to make all of its ads through AI on its platforms and provide users with a tool for that rather than going through an ad agency. There are also a lot of companies right now that are taking what's called an AI first approach to hiring. They look at a potential job, they ask themselves, can that job be done by AI? If it can, they aren't going to hire someone for it. If it can, then they'll consider bringing someone on. That's a lot different than the situation, you know, 2 or 3 years ago, even.
So when I was a kid, we used to go to this place called Pinball Pete's. It was an arcade, whatever. And Pinball Pete's had this little French fry machine, right? And for 10 cents, this French fries would come down to eat French fries. Sometimes they'd be in the cup, sometimes they wouldn't. But what I'm getting at is AI now can create an entire meal for somebody. You push into you go to the kiosk. You don't need anybody. You don't need any person behind the counter. It can make the burger. It can put on your toppings. It can cook French fries. It ships it out. It's all wrapped up. The packaging department, and there it is. And so
Yeah.
people that had entry level jobs don't have entry level jobs anymore. You're exactly right about that.
Yeah, and it's not just entry level jobs, too. I mean, AI is increasingly taking more jobs in finance and coding. Specifically, that's where it's most advanced. This new technology is
Well, let
most
me ask you
advanced.
this, because what you say there makes me think, why am I going to need an accountant going forward? If I can take all my financial information, put it into an AI program that will find me every deduction without fail, and I'm not talking about the ones on the street corner, I'm talking about in my own computer, feed in all the information. Well, you might be a little risky here. Well, I'll be in the gray area. You can kind of adjust your risk factors, whatever it might be. Why would I need an accountant going forward? It's a
You may
serious
not,
question.
and you probably won't miss your accountant, and you might not miss your lawyer, right? But I think what's
I
concerning for
won't miss my lawyer, I'll tell you that.
I think what's
Anyhow,
concerning for everybody is if we see 12 million workforce transitions over the next 5 years, that's a huge number. And that's going to have economy-wide impacts if that many people are searching for a job. So I
yeah.
think some of the things that we're recommending right now is we need more data to really figure out what's going on. Is this AI that's impacting our workforce? And where are new skills and education needed for workers that are going to be forced to transition in their employment, right? Because right now,
Yeah.
we don't necessarily know what the future of work looks like.
Well, we're going to keep watching it, Chris, because it keeps going faster and faster and faster. We are George Jetson collectively, all of us, every single day. Really appreciate you being here. You come back anytime because this is fascinating stuff to me and to people listening. It's like, wow, I never even thought about doing that. All right. Chris, thank you
Thanks
so
so much,
much.
Steve. Appreciate it.
And apologies to Esquire Bob. Bob, I didn't mean anything by it. I just meant, if I can get by without the lawyer. I didn't mean anything personal, Bob. And Esquire Bob could be so sensitive. I'll be right back. All right. It is time now to check in on sports with my good friend, Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. Some stunning news out of the NBA yesterday as the New York Knicks fired head coach Tom Thibodeau just days after the Knicks lost to the Indiana Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals in 6 games. Thibodeau led the Knicks to back-to-back 50-win seasons the last 2 years. That's the first time that's happened to the Knicks in the last 30 years. He coached the Knicks the last 5 seasons. A full schedule of games in Major League Baseball last night. American League winners included the New York Yankees, Minnesota, and Houston. National League winners included Philadelphia, Cincinnati, and San Diego. And at the French Open in Paris yesterday, quarterfinal action began. Defending men's champ Carlos Alcaraz won easily over American Tommy Paul, and defending women's champ Iga Swiatek also advanced to the semifinals. More quarterfinal matches are today at Roland Garros. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
Thank you, Brock. Greatly appreciate you every single day. So if you missed this earlier, Mohammed Sabri Soliman, he is the Egyptian in the country illegally that set American citizens on fire in Boulder, Colorado over the weekend because they were Jewish. No other reason except they were Jewish. His entire family is now in custody, being tossed out of the country maybe as soon as today. His wife and 5 kids, federal. So they're all here illegally. And he decides to try to burn American citizens alive. Anyhow, they're all being tossed out as they should be. Are you tired of being in pain every day? Are you tired and kind of, just not feeling it? Try ExodusNow.com. I take it every day. Try ExodusNow.com. A natural holistic supplement combining 2,000 years of ancient wisdom and modern science. It has things like frankincense and myrrh. And then it's got this groundbreaking benefit of molecular hydrogen. All of these things come together. Look, I feel great. And it's working for me. If you're living with inflammation and you're tired of it, you don't have to suffer anymore. Make sure you get this right. Try ExodusNow.com. Try ExodusNow.com, and you will have it, and you will be happy. I'm sure of it. Send me a note, by the way. Any of the products I talk about and the people I work with here on the program are all people I work with directly. If you ever have a question or a comment, go to stevegruber.com. Send me a note. I'll be back with more after this. All right, we're lighting the fuse in another big hour here. The Steve Gruber Show, a special edition from Washington, D.C. We'll be here again tomorrow morning. A lot to cover here today. Big day for me. We're not going to do the big three this hour just because a couple of things I want to talk about with you here. As you know, I've been in Washington a lot lately. It has been rewarding. Had the opportunity to go to a West Point graduation here a couple of weekends ago. It was remarkable. I went to Arlington National Cemetery on Memorial Day. And let me tell you something about that event. I had the chance to meet some 98-year-old and 99-year-old veterans of World War II. And it was a blessing, I think, to see those folks. So to see the new class of cadets, 1,002 in the long gray line at West Point, graduating to defend this country, coming out as second lieutenants, and then to see those that had given themselves to the military to defend this nation, and then those that had given the last full measure of devotion that are now buried at Arlington National Cemetery has been all very remarkable. And then, of course, last Friday, I had the opportunity to fly on Air Force One for the very first time, which, look, for a guy like me, that's a big deal. Won't be the last time, but I enjoyed it, and I will enjoy it again. Traveling on Air Force One means you're in the action. You're in the thick of things. And right now, that's where I feel we need to be. We need to be in the action right now, taking a look at what's happening, defending this country, fending off the nonsense and the people that tell us, oh, it's going to be the worst economy ever and Donald Trump's going to destroy the country. No, he's not. No, we have too much spending. I don't like that, but he's not destroying the country. And then a little bit later today, I'm going over for an appointment at the White House to pick up a hard pass. Hard pass means I'll have access to go and cover the White House on a much more regular basis. I won't be here every day because I have children, but I will be here probably once a month or more in Washington. We've decided, Ivy and I and Sarah and the entire team have decided that being here more often gives us better access and can inform you in a much better way. It's a lot more work, I'll give you that, but never been afraid of work. We'll do it. And then the really good news happens. The really good news happens, which is this. My first day with my hard pass, and there's a big party on the South Lawn at 7 o'clock tonight at the White House. Media is invited, which means I'm in. So maybe they knew. I don't know. Maybe, the president, when he talked to me on Friday, said, hey, I really like this guy. Came over, shook my hand. If you didn't see the video, it's up on all the social media platforms. Standing in the pouring rain at Andrews, Joint Base Andrews, in the pouring rain, he's talking to me, I like this guy. And he comes over and shakes my hand. So maybe he heard I was getting my hard pass and said, you know what, let's just throw a party on the South Lawn. Anthony, that's what I'm thinking. Is that wrong? I think he's just throwing a party because,
Well, I think
it's official now.
If it was for you, he would have given you a +1 to bring me. But
well.
Who knows?
Maybe he's heard about. Never mind what he might have heard. Anyhow, so there's a big party tonight, 7 o'clock, summer soiree. So that's pretty exciting. All right. So while we enjoy freedom, while we enjoy having this conversation, while we respect those that gave us this opportunity by putting their lives on the line and then some laying their lives down so we could have this conversation, we respect that. There are those that don't. And the more you look at Europe and countries like the UK or France or Germany, man, they hate freedom, it seems. It just seems that way, doesn't it? How about this from the United Nations? We are ways to make you comply. We are ways to make you understand the truth. Let's listen to bite number 2. Here it is.
Digital platforms are being misused to subvert science and spread disinformation and hate to billions of people. This clear and present global threat demands our policy brief on information integrity on digital platforms puts forward a framework for a concerned international response.
Good Lord, they hate us. They do. They hate us. Here they are complaining about social media. Oh, it's disinformation. Can't be trusted. We shall be the ones to tell you the truth. I mean, if you were creating a cartoon villain, you could not come up with better people than this guy from the United Nations or Klaus Schwab or whomever. Please, give me a break. And speaking of fake news, it's not me. It's not most of my colleagues here on social media. No. It's people like the BBC, where I'm a regular guest, by the way. Caroline Levitt calling out the BBC for the fake news they deliver. Listen to this carpet bombing run.
There are now reports that Israeli forces are firing on Palestinians trying to get aid from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Up to 20 people, according to the Red Cross, have arrived to the hospital that they've set up with gunshot wounds, have died from them. Is this administration aware of these? And I mean, what is being done to address this situation?
The administration is aware of those reports, and we are currently looking into the veracity of them because, unfortunately, unlike some in the media, we don't take the word of Hamas with total truth. We like to look into it when they speak. Unlike the BBC, who had multiple headlines, they wrote, Israeli tank kills 26, Israeli tank kills 21, Israeli gunfire kills 31, Red Cross says 21 people were killed in an aid incident, and then, oh wait, they had to correct and take down their entire story, saying we reviewed the footage and couldn't find any evidence of anything. Oh, okay. So we're going to look into reports before we confirm them from this podium or before we take action, and I suggest that journalists who actually care about truth do the same to reduce the amount of misinformation that's going around the globe on this front.
They waited to look at it and they said, oh, none of it's true. Makes you wonder, doesn't it, who's running these newsrooms? It does make you wonder. They put up and regurgitate the talking points of the terrorist organization Hamas, that all these terrible atrocities have happened. Tanks are killing children, hospitals being blown up by Israeli missiles, and all this death and carnage. And oh wait, there's no evidence that any of that happened. This is the BBC. They're supposed to be a respected news organization. How do you screw it up that badly and that frequently? Unless you're predisposed to believe one narrative over another. As a journalist, that's not where you're supposed to be. Look, I'm a commentator, and I do a better job of telling you the truth every single day than these clowns. Every single day I'll tell you the truth, and we dig for it, and we find it, and if I'm wrong, which almost never happens, but if I'm wrong, I will come here and I will tell you. Unlike those folks who will equivocate and try to slide it to the side and not tell you anything, I'll tell you, look, hey, I got one wrong. Doesn't happen very often. In fact, I can't even think of the last time that happened. I do a better job as a commentator than the BBC does as an alleged news organization. Let that sink in and marinate for a moment or two. Yeah. All right, we'll take a break. Back with Ron Rademacher. All right, air guitar to bring us back on today. Oh, well, I lost my soundtrack. I have to talk to my agent about that. All right, we're back at it here in Washington, D.C. again. Apparently they're throwing a big party for me at the White House tonight on the South Lawn, a soiree to kick off summer. Very excited about that. But my next guest, they've been throwing parties for him for a long time, blanket parties. Okay, maybe not. But he's been traveling the back roads of Michigan for a long time. Ron Rademacher with me. Ron, good morning.
There may have been a blanket party or two back in the day. You know, I think in basic training that may have happened.
Yeah, just keep kicking till the whimpering
White
stops.
House, the White House once a month, I hear you say, I'm sure everyone is offering advice, as people do, to help you through this. And I'm going to go ahead and offer mine. When
Great.
you're in a tight spot, don't hesitate to mention my name. All right, it'll lighten the moment. And everybody will say, "Oh yeah, we want to talk to you about that guy." So,
All right,
congratulations.
I appreciate it. So I see that it's June 4th today, correct? My grandmother's birthday, if she were still here, she'd be 126 years old, born in 1899. But I was just invited yesterday. I see the top of your list here. Is D-Day, which is a couple days down the line here. And I bring this to your attention. I was just invited yesterday to go with Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. He does it every year. He said, next year, Gruber, I want you to come with me to the beaches of Normandy. I'm going to do it. It's been a lifelong desire of mine. I'm going to do it. So I think it's a pretty cool thing that you mentioned here. What do you want to say about this, Ron? I mean, it changed world history.
It changed world history. The greatest generation. People I've looked up to all my life. My father served on the beaches of Normandy. There's still a lot of those veterans around. Let's just not forget, and all the hubbub and all the worry about AI and all this misinformation, yada, yada, the principles that those people stood for when they conducted that invasion and made those sacrifices are exactly the same principles we believe in today. So let's not forget to honor the veterans of D-Day. That's that.
Well done. And I agree. At least it's the principles that you and I believe in. I wonder about some of the others, but I can't fix that.
Well, we need to pass on the traditions, and some will take, some won't. That's why we have, everybody has their own opinion. Mine happens to be right in this case.
Well, exactly. I have an opinion. If you disagree with me, you're entitled to be wrong. I get it. I'm with that.
Yeah. If I could agree with you, and then we'd both be wrong. But
anyhow, what else you got on your magical little list here you want to start with?
Well, we got all kinds of stuff, but I will mention that the road trip that's going to be going up on Michigan News Source is a road trip to Gross Eel. If you've not been down there for the alpaca stampede, it's hilarious. It's also the featured podcast this month. So if you go to my website, Michigan Back Roads, click on podcast, you can get a quick tour of the island. This is a downriver island right where the Detroit River enters Lake Erie. I'm sure you've been walleye fishing off that island.
I have been. I've been in those waters. By the way, I should mention I was down at the Detroit Grand Prix over the weekend at the time trials on Saturday. That was a lot of fun and excitement, and boy, are they loud.
Yeah, I'll bet they are. Yeah, man, you're getting around these days, Steve. I'm glad to see you out there traveling around. And it was very nice of Ivy to let you go to Washington, D.C. once a month. Will you have oversight while you're there, I wonder? Or?
Sometimes, and in fact, it was Ivy that when I landed in Detroit, she surprised me with, hey, yeah, we're not going home on Friday night. She said, yeah, we're not going home. We're going into Detroit. Went to this hotel called The Roost that had this most fabulous speakeasy bar in the basement. I must say, Ron, it was tremendously cool place. And then she said, the next day we went off, or that day we went off to the Grand Prix and so on and so forth. It was great. I loved it.
I'm writing down The Roost Speakeasy. Got to check it out.
Yeah.
We got a lot of other stuff.
I guess that was Saturday. The days all run together, anyhow.
Yeah, I know. And I'm sure your dance card is always filled. Congratulations. Keep it going. You're doing a fabulous job, just in case no one's told you that lately. I know you don't hear it at home every day, but I think so. You're doing a great job. Keep moving on up, baby. So a lot of famous stuff going on. I hear Anthony's going to Copper Harbor. If he gets up there in time, the mountain bike big boy clinic is going on. If you're a mountain biker, Anthony, take your bike with you. You can have a great time up there. It's open to sophisticated gentlemen, grizzled old guys, young bucks, big boys. Anybody who identifies as a man can take their bike, and they will show you mountain biking like you have never seen mountain biking in Copper Harbor. Let me tell you. Have your
Okay.
have all kinds of first aid equipment. All right, it's the real deal. If you don't want to do that, NEMA, I'm going to miss it because I've got the World Tours taking me over to Imlay City. But this Saturday is the Smallmouth Bass Catch and Eat tournament held in NEMA. Fantastic event. You go out, catch the smallies, bring them in. They got a whole crew there to fillet them. The inn cooks them up with all the fixings. Last time I was there, we caught so many smallies. We produced 82 pounds of fillets. It was
Really?
fantastic.
Golly, I'd like to do that. I've got a high school
just,
graduation I can't miss this weekend, which is great. But wow, I love smallmouth fishing, and I love smallmouth eating. Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrific the way they do it. And either next year or the year after, I'm going to lock. It's always June, the first Saturday in June. I'm locking it in because I just don't want to miss it anymore. They boats last time I was up there. It's like $20 to register, and they weigh them. They have all species, all kinds of prizes. It's terrific. And the biggest smallie is mounted in the tavern there. You had lunch with me, and it's mounted for 1 year with your name on it. So that's a great event. Another good one, of course, if you want to go a little bit more famous. I don't know why it's more famous, but they're having a lilac festival on Mackinac Island, Steve.
That place.
Yeah.
All right. So hold on, Ron. As these things go, we talked about me, just not quite enough, but a little bit more than usual, but not quite enough. And then we talk about you a little bit. But let's take a break. We have some more great destinations. I know we're not through the list here, and I keep dropping my pen this morning. I'm having some challenges in the studio, but we'll take a break with Ron Rademacher. By the way, if you want to find out more, MichiganBackroads.com, MichiganBackroads.com. More with Ron Rademacher in Extra Innings right after this. All right, back to it. Ron Rademacher in Extra Innings, everybody. Here he is. He's suited up. He's ready for battle. All right, Ron, let's get a couple more in.
Yeah, let's do that. So we talked about the Smallmouth Bass Festival. Don't want to miss out on another great festival that, again, I'm going to miss it because just bad luck, is the Gizzard Fest in Potterville. They've been having this now for at least 20 years.
All right.
Gizzard City.
This is going to blow the rest of the segment. But Joe's Gizzard City, I have a personal story to tell.
Oh, good.
I had met Ivy first or second day of June 2013, I guess it was. And we never exchanged numbers, and I had gone to look for her, and there's more detail on this that we'll share over a beer at some point, you and I, Ron. But I had failed miserably. I'd gone to her place of employment, and I came out. I didn't find her as a restaurant in Lansing, and I came out, and I saw this red car go through the parking lot, and then zoom. I saw her, and she saw me, and she zoomed away, and I thought, well, that went well. And I thought to my life, that I look like a complete idiot. I look like a stalker. That's over. So a few days later, I'm at Gizzard Fest, and my phone goes off with a text. Hey, this is Ivy. Were you looking for me the other day? And so really the real genesis of my relationship with my wife began at Gizzard Fest. Ron, it was a miraculous day. I can't tell you about the tattoo I saw on a man's head, but someday I'll tell you about that because that was something special.
That
Yeah.
that guy's name is Sandy. I know exactly who you're talking about. He's there every year. I'm sure he'll be there this year. Big biker guy.
The tattoo
Yeah,
on the
I
back
know.
of his head?
Yeah, yeah. A little bit of hair sticking,
Okay.
a little ponytail.
Yeah.
That's the guy.
A little rat tail. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Sandy.
Yeah. Don't need to say anything about
I
that.
never knew the
Let
man's
people
name.
just
Now the man has a name. The man is Sandy with the rat tail out of the back of his head. I
Yeah.
think I tell this story, people are like, that's not true. Totally true. I'm looking at that going, wow, this is where my life is at. And then my phone went off and my life was saved right there in Gizzard City by Ivy. And that's all I got.
Those two memories in juxtaposition, that's very strange. Very strange. But they do have great gizzards there, and if you've never been if you're around there, it even made it on Dives, Dumps, and whatever that TV show is.
Yeah.
Diners, Dives, and
Joe's
Dumps.
Gizzard City. You got to go.
Gizzard City was even featured on that.
God bless America, Ron. Got to run. All right, back at it now as we make our way toward the back end of this program. Coming to you live from Washington, D.C., this special edition of the Steve Gruber Show, anchored from Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. Glad to be here. My next guest, not battling it out in Washington, not yet, but you never know where a career might take you. He's still fighting the good fight in Lansing. That's State Representative Steve Frisbee from Michigan's 44th State House District. Steve, nice to have you back on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you. All right, tell the folks again, remind people where the 44th House District is.
The 44th is the northern part of Calhoun County, Battle Creek to Albion, and all of the northern tier of townships within Calhoun County.
So, for me, the epicenter of morel mushroom hunting every spring. Absolutely. Which, by the way, it's fabulous in your district, just for the record. All right, so House Bill 4486 would prevent local governments from banning natural gas appliances. I can't believe we have to be here, but here we are. Why did you feel the need to protect us to use a stove? I mean, I think cooking on gas is the best way to go. Ivy, my wife, she loves cooking on gas. Why do we have to be here?
Well, because policy across the country has trended towards removing choice of natural gas or propane. And I think that it is a choice, and we have an infrastructure that supports it very well. It's safe, it's effective, it's cheap, a lot less expensive than electricity. And I think everybody should have the right to make that choice when they decide how to cook and how to heat and cool their home.
Furnaces, water heaters, stoves, whatever your gas grill, if you have it hooked up directly, which some people do, right? Why? It's strange to me. Doesn't Michigan have this very unique geology, where we can store natural gas underground because of the way the limestone is sitting under the earth here?
Yes, and Semco and others, DTE, consumers all do that, and we have an abundance of natural gas. So why not tap into it? It's less expensive. It means less money out of your wallet as a citizen. And why should we have policy or bring forth policy or allow people to bring forth policy that takes choice away? So I think it's important that people have that choice, and that's why I introduced the bill.
In fact, Steve, considering the facts that we know about the science of natural gas and the unique geology of Michigan, I think we should use more natural gas. We have it in spades to begin with. We have more than enough natural gas to supply this state in power and heat and cooking ability forever. I mean, shouldn't that be what we're pursuing here? Energy for Michigan forever.
And it's more reliable. You know, I just read a report this morning, 1,500 Lansing area folks were out of power. Lansing or Jackson area folks were out of electricity. There was no storm. Of course, probably more limbs falling from the storms a couple of weeks ago. But, you know, I was in public safety for over 40 years. I can remember one time when the gas grid got shut off in Battle Creek, and that was because of a maintenance caused problem. So gas is reliable. So when those storms came through Battle Creek a couple of weeks ago, 400 yards from my house, we were without electricity for 4 days. And thankfully, I had a natural gas-powered whole house generator that kicked in just like it's supposed to. It ran without problem. But, you know, we need reliability, because if people don't have that ability to, you know, buy one of those, they're fairly expensive to purchase and install. But they're frail, elderly. If that's January, I'm worried about people, you know, succumbing to issues of being cold. So I think we need reliability and affordability, and natural gas
and despite,
gives us both.
You make a great point here, and I want to make sure I underline and underscore this. On this planet, every year, the number of people that succumb to cold, that are killed by cold weather as opposed to hot weather, is 20 to 1. 20 to 1, according to all the studies done for years and years. They'll tell you, oh, climate change, the planet's going to cook us. No, it's going to freeze us to death long before it cooks us.
Correct.
That's a fact. And you know that, don't you?
Well, you know, I'm old enough to remember we were going to burn up, we were going to drown, we were going to starve. I don't know how many ways we're going to die because of
Acid rain.
an
Don't forget
energy
acid rain
crisis
and
or
Y2K.
climate change. Yeah, so I've been through all of that, including the gas lines as a kid in the 70s. So there's a lot of, and I do believe the climate is changing, but I think that's part of its natural evolution. Part of it could be man-made. So can we do things that are cleaner? Having a house that has natural gas and electricity for appliances in a combination produces 11% less emissions than a house that's completely electric. So
that's exactly
if we want
right.
to move, towards cleaner energy, and I think we should turn over a planet to our kids and our grandkids that's in good a shape or better. I don't have a problem with that. But right now in Michigan, that base load issue. I heard you talking to a guy from Louisiana this morning, and that base load issue in Michigan is terrible. We in January and July, and we probably came close to it yesterday. I don't have a report to know that, but it was 80 some degrees here yesterday. It was hot, so use goes way up when air conditioning demands kick in higher. So, and we have no ability right now to expand the AI and the needs of industry moving forward, data centers, those kind of things. So if we want to be a leader and grow our economy and have a place for people to land, we got to fix the tax structure and the business climate in Michigan, but then we have to have those infrastructure things in place, including energy. So I'm an all hands on deck kind of guy.
I agree.
Solar, wind, that's fine, but we can't be taking base load energy away. And I really think you're going to see a strong push to nuclear coming up in the small nuclear or mobile reactors. And there's a great place for them. And I think we're going to need them if we want to have reliability.
Yeah, modular nuclear is going to be part of the solution, and there's no question. And look, is the climate changing? Yes, it began changing dramatically 11,700 years ago at the end of the last ice age. I'm pretty sure nobody was driving to work in their SUVs 11,700 years ago.
Probably not.
Where you're sitting right now was under 1/2 mile thick ice. All right, Steve. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. Steve Frisbee, got to leave it right there, my friend. Thank you, as always, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And let me know how that bill comes out. It's House Bill 4486. It would prevent local governments from banning appliances that people have in their homes. Places like, say, Ann Arbor, the epicenter of liberalism in Michigan. Good Lord, folks, what are you doing there? Oh, and you've got the Chinese students going out and trying to bring fungus in. Oh, yeah, there's that. Other than that, it's going great at U of M. All right, we'll take a break. When I come back, the beautiful and talented Ivy will be here with me. It's the Steve Gruber Show. All right, welcome back to it. Glad you're here. All right, so I'm going to start off this segment with, with a little humility, I guess. We learned during the break that Sandy, the gentleman with the tattoo on the back of his head that I was looking at when I was in Potterville at Gizzard Fest, passed away a couple of years ago. So condolences to the family. It's a memory that I will never forget. I'm looking at that. My phone goes off. It was just a combination of things. And there's Ivy. And, Sandy passed away, but Ivy and I have been together ever since. So maybe that's the bright side of the story. In fact, she's here with me right now. Ivy, good morning.
Good morning, Steve. What a great
Glad
story.
to have you here. Look, it's a great story.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to the story than I'm allowed to actually share on this program because of, you'd have to have seen the tattoo to understand. Anyhow, nice to have you here. Well, I'm here in D.C. again. You're there again. What's going on? You just sent me something that I found shocking.
Well, I want to actually talk to you about another story first. It's
all right.
Over the last few weeks, I've pulled a few ticks off of me. And
yes, I knew that. And you hate it.
Oh my gosh. And they're very large ticks.
Yeah, she hates it. I mean, it's true for a lot of people. Ticks creep people out because they bury their head in you.
They burrow, and then thankfully it hadn't latched onto me at all, but I kind of felt them and pulled them off. But there's this thing happening right now in New Hampshire where these ticks called vampire ticks are ravaging New England moose. And winter ticks are killing moose across New England in alarming numbers, latching onto their hosts by the thousands and draining so much blood that their animals have been described as zombies before they collapse from anemia.
Really?
Yes, and this is happening now. And with warmer I'm going to continue reading the story here from Outdoor Life. But
go ahead.
With warmer summers, shorter winters, and less snow cover, these vampire-like parasites are thriving, spreading across New England and threatening the future of one of the region's most iconic species, the moose. Now, I'm not sure particularly with that, but some animals can have up to 90,000 ticks on them. Holy moly! Like, this is what my nightmares are made of. But
yes, they are.
But how crazy of a story, huh? Like, I wonder if if there's because if you don't have a hard winter, these things don't die, right? Just same thing with mosquitoes. So I don't know. Just
right, hard winters tend to knock down pests. Mm-hmm. You never get rid of all of them, but it'll knock them down. Now, having said that, you mentioned mosquitoes. The way they've combated mosquitoes in a lot of places, they create a sterile mosquito that they put out there, and the mosquito mates with a sterile partner, nothing gets produced. Maybe they can do the same sort of thing with a tick. I would assume they could, they being people like those at Michigan State University or Ohio State or these land-grant institutions that look at such things. I bet they can come up with a sterile tick.
Right.
And we'll spread them all over our yard so Ivy never sees a tick. Go ahead.
Oh, gosh, yeah. I'm not sure that will ever happen, but there is another story I just read. I'm going to have to try to pull it up here, but there is an invasive tick that is carrying a new sort of disease that if it latches onto you and gives you the disease, it can cause death and a very serious illness.
Oh, that's exciting.
Lyme disease, another disease, but I don't have that. I don't have the recollection right.
But worse than Lyme disease.
Worse than Lyme disease, right? Because Lyme disease doesn't always attribute to death, but it does contribute to significant illness, and if gone untreated, can lead to death. But
pain,
just some
fatigue,
things to think about. If you
discomfort,
find ticks on you, make sure you can even if you can keep it, you can send it in for testing to see if it did have some sort of disease. Make sure that you're keeping an eye on if you're getting, what is it, the bullseye type of rash.
Yeah, the target.
That happens.
That's right.
The target. Yes,
that's
thank
right.
you. So just
no,
keep
bullseye
an eye
is
on these
exactly
things.
right. Bullseye, target, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Just keep an eye on these things, especially with your children. If you're outside a lot, make sure you're
look
checking.
at you. You're scratching your head. You're having.
Yeah, it freaks me out, man.
Ivy hates them. Look, there are things that creep Ivy
not
out.
That I
One of
hate
those
them,
things,
but it's very unsettling
Ivy,
when you feel something
hate
crawl in your hair on your hairline, and you're like, "What is that?" And then you pull off a tick. That's very unsettling. I think that would be unsettling for anyone.
I agree.
So, but
yep, I third that one. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, everybody's on agreement. Yeah.
Especially if you don't know because you haven't been outside particularly. But we do have pets, so I mean they can bring.
All right, so
it in
real
at
quick,
any time.
I want to get to this other story that the people that are taking Ozempic have now apparently been drinking the most unhealthy bottled drink there is. It's a protein drink. I want to know if Anthony takes this because Anthony takes protein powder and he lifts a fair amount.
Well, we actually started drinking this quite a bit, and then and when I had read the ingredients
then you read
of
the label.
this drink, and I'm like, I'm not buying this anymore. Interesting.
Right.
So yes, this new popular protein drink called Fairlife Core Power has
It's
a
milk of some sort.
It's a milk, yes, but it does have added flavorings, and it has carrageenan, which is a thickening agent, and that actually causes a lot of issues in the gut, a lot of inflammation in the gut. So I completely avoid that because I've actually recognized that when I do consume that, interestingly enough, it's in the whipped cream that you love. You know, the cool. What is it? Not
Of course
Cool
it
Whip,
is.
but whipped, whatever it is.
Ready Whip.
Ready Whip. Thank you. So it's in that because it's just
I do love
that
it.
thickening agent. So I can't, that stuff I can't eat.
So Core Power, and Fairlife also sells just regular milk that's super homogenized. It'll last on your shelf for like months, right? Or in your refrigerator. But Core Power it's in all the stores you run into where they've got soda, beer, whatever. They've always got Core Power there. Well, apparently it's been named as the most unhealthy drink you can probably drink. It has 60 grams of protein and all this other stuff. Anthony, don't drink Core Power.
I just had. It's 42 grams of protein. I just had one the other day because I was out and about and I needed
something. Right.
What's the ingredient?
Carrageenan. It's a thickening agent. Yeah, and also
maybe we should
have you ever heard of the thing natural flavors? Natural flavors doesn't have to actually be a specific thing, and there can be up to 100 different undisclosed chemical additives in that. So you never know what you're drinking.
Ooh, that's tasty.
There you go.
Undisclosed chemicals. Can I have that for dessert? Ivy, love you. Gotta run.
Just drink regular milk.
Okay. Thank you. I'll be right back. Well, a big day here is as I wind this one out, right? And I'll be joining Ray Richardson on his radio program out of Bangor, is it Portland, Maine, here shortly. Then a little bit later today, I'm doing a podcast with Nicole Shanahan. You may know her. She was married to the founder of Google. She herself a billionaire as a result of that. And then she became Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s running mate. I'm going to be on her podcast a little bit later today. And then in the middle of all that, I'm picking up my hard pass for the White House. And then tonight at 7 o'clock, apparently there is a party on the South Lawn. I think that's very exciting. So I'll be at my first official event with the hard pass. I've been to the White House a number of times, as you know. But my first official event with a hard pass will be the party in the South Lawn. And the weather could not be more perfect. I mean, it is absolutely ideal. Sunny and 80. And by 7 o'clock tonight should be just about perfect. I don't know what to expect from this event. Summer soiree. So that's exciting. And then tomorrow I'll be here in D.C. and then it's fly back to Michigan for the afternoon program tomorrow. It's a lot of back and forth. It's okay. We're getting this figured out. Again, the reason we decided to pursue the hard pass and get into the briefing room with Caroline and have more access to the president is simply to better serve you, the listener, the viewer, the participant in this program. So we're going to be running back and forth more to make sure that you have the best angle on the news every single day. All right, so we do it for you. And it's fun for me, too. Don't get me wrong. And yes, for those of you that keep asking, Ivy will join me here on occasion. And in fact, I found a couple of really cool restaurants yesterday that I think she would enjoy. So that's how that's going to go. I appreciate you being here. Make sure you send me emails at stevegruber.com. If you've got questions, comments, or concerns, you can send them there. All right. Fight the good fight and keep the faith. God bless America, my friends. I'm Steve Gruber. This is the Steve Gruber Show. And remember, only you can save America.